Piet Mondrian was born in 1872 and died in 1944. He was born in a little country known as the Netherlands. Mondrian started painting in 1893 at the age of 21. He was inspired by an artist named Vincent van Gogh. Maybe you've heard of him. Mondrian started off by painting impressionistic landscapes, however that did not last very long. In 1911, he saw Pablo Picasso's paintings for the first time. This moment forever changed his life. He began painting in a Cubist style, just as Picasso did. Mondrian eventually transformed his Cubist style into abstract art. These abstract paintings are what he is best known for today. Now, enough about Piet Mondrian, let's make our own art. But before we can get started, we need to practice drawing block letters for our project. I'll be practicing on a whiteboard, but you can practice on a scrap piece of paper. The first step is to write out the letter of your choosing nice and big. Next step is to trace around that letter. Be sure to leave a bit of a gap between the outline and the original letter that you drew. The very last step is to erase the original letter that we drew, because now we can see that it's a block letter. Now that we're done practicing, let's do the same thing on our final paper. Be sure not to press down too hard with the pencil because we need to erase that line later. Next thing you'll need is a black marker so you can trace around your letter. Just like we practiced at the beginning, make sure that you're leaving a lot of space between the outline and the inside letter. The very last step is to erase that original letter that you drew at the beginning, but make sure that you're erasing carefully because if you erase too fast, you will crumple your paper, which will ruin your whole project. Now we need to turn this into a Piet Mondrian work of art. We're going to take that black marker and draw some vertical lines inside of our letter. Vertical lines go up and down. Next, you'll draw some horizontal lines. Horizontal lines go left to right. Be sure to continue drawing both of these lines inside of your letter as much as you like until you feel like it's complete. Now, before we can get started coloring, we need to look back on Piet Mondrian's paintings and see that he used the primary colors, which are red, yellow, and blue. So just like Piet Mondrian, we too will be using the primary colors for our drawing. I started off with red, but you are more than welcome to start with yellow or blue. Be sure that when you are coloring, that you are coloring nice and neat and staying inside the lines. Now, this next step is completely optional, but if you choose to do so, you will need scissors, glue, and some colored construction paper. If you are choosing to do this option, the first thing you'll need to do is simply cut out your letter. Now, if you're like me and your letter has one of those weird extra parts in the middle, what you're going to do is fold back the letter, make a little tiny cut on that little part, then very carefully stick your scissors through that hole you just made and cut out the rest of that bit. If you're having a difficult time cutting out that center part, don't be afraid to ask an adult for help. Now, the last thing you'll need to do is glue down your letter to a piece of colored construction paper. It doesn't have to be black, but I suggest not gluing it to a white piece of paper because you just cut it off from a white piece of paper. Be sure to press down for 10 seconds and voila, you have your Piet Mondrian masterpiece.